Oh no, look, it's been a crazy year.
I think this year has been extremely difficult. No?
I actually think it was kind of a year of two halves.
And now suddenly it's the talk of the town. Everybody wants a piece of it.
We want to try to be around the place, going to different events, seeing what the sentiment or what the market is like.
A lot of those challenges have been solved or are on the way to being solved.
I want to say welcome, Alejandro Gutierrez.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Sharif Alejandro.
Thank you, Adam.
How are you getting on? So I'm Adam. We're co-founders of Defactor. Hopefully, again, we're going to try and do a couple of segments here, record as much as we can. We were trying to do the plans for quarterly reviews, right? Calling them Defactor Rewind. As we're coming towards the end of the year, I think it makes more sense to do like a yearly review. So apologies if we missed something, but we did want to just go through achievements, focus points, whatever. So yeah, I'll start with you, Sharif. If you could briefly kind of summarize this year, what were you happy about, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, not much happened really in crypto this year and in Defactor. Oh no, look, it's been a crazy year. If you look at where we were when we came into it, we didn't have a token listed anywhere. We were specifically looking at the trade finance sector, invoice financing, and we had a huge amount of work to do to deliver on what we set out. And all the way through a pretty rampant bear market in crypto, which is obviously it's a great time to put heads down and actually start building stuff, but it can be quite noisy as well, especially when people are kind of shouting at you and screaming and saying, "What are you doing? And why aren't you moving fast enough?" But yeah, I mean, I think looking back, we've achieved an awful lot. It'd be interesting to kind of look and see when we set our objectives for the year, how many we ticked off, how many we had to move around. But yeah, overall, I think we've achieved a lot.
I think this year has been extremely difficult. Not just for us, but even when you come out of the crypto bubble, it has been a really difficult year for everybody, every single industry, and having the chance to still have growing the community, because as Sharif has mentioned, right, like we had the chance to just expand to, let's say, China, where some markets that were not even close, right, and suddenly we have a real presence in those markets that is really vibrant, and clearly they want more, right, and it's always good to see. So like if you put it for how difficult this year has been, I think there was a lot actually that was achieved. And I think we are setting our foundations for what is coming in 2024, that everybody is really optimistic is going to be way better for the space and the narrative of the RWAs, right?
No, for sure. I actually think it was kind of a year of two halves, right? And well, it always is. But in the first half of the year, there wasn't as much talk around RWA tokenization, some of the stuff there. As you got towards the second half, I noticed, started to go to events more, etc. It seemed that the sentiment was, I'm not sure whether it had caught up or whatever it was, but that's just something I noticed from traveling around.
But if you remember, exactly the same thing happened with NFTs. So,
yeah.
We were involved in launching NFT chains back before anybody knew anything about NFTs. And then it ignited and it had a term, and that term then started to expand and ripple and go viral, and then people all of a sudden say, "Oh, I know that real world assets, yeah, of course, But people have been working on this stuff for years, under the hood, and it's just now it has a narrative, now it has a brand, now it has something that people are starting to get behind. So it's
getting some momentum finally, right?
Some momentum,
I've been chatting about this, like doing these things since 2019. That's when realistically it started with this type of business model, right? And ideas and concepts. And in the beginning, nobody was paying attention to what you were saying. And now suddenly it's the talk of the town. Everybody wants a piece of it. And it's really interesting just to see like that validation, but also that suddenly all those concepts and ideas that were put forward like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, now that actually, it makes sense. There's more people coming into it. And it's just growing actually that market and that pie, right? Like it's really interesting just to see, right?
It is, and actually, yeah. So I came into the space probably 6 years ago now, and I was saying it earlier. I said it on an AMA last week. It's when I came into the space, it's the same things were being talked about. It was asset tokenization. It was talking about whatever real estate tokenization, financial assets being tokenized. But at that stage, it was like the big players, the big, financial institutions, they only had months of experience. Now they have years of experience. Now they've been looking into this space, running it through their R&D departments, running tests, POCs. So hopefully 2024 is the year that a lot of the big boys move out of POC, move out of things, and you start to actually see things going to market. But let's see.
You're starting seeing it more and more, right? Like it was pretty interesting. Like in Singapore, it was something that was really, really, they kind of that separation between finance and fintech and DeFi doesn't really exist. They have been doing and using that technology now for a couple of years. And now they're providing services, and they're providing services as financial services. And that's it.
But that's it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting just to see how the whole technology is just starting getting just absorbed now by these bigger financial institutions, and they clearly know now what is the purpose that this technology is going to be playing in their solutions, right? And I think it's for us that we are outside that traditional market, just kind of counteract and provide some alternative solutions for what they're doing. I think that's the...
Yeah, I mean, it's just what these financial institutions do. They'll never run kind of new software. They'll always wait for it to bed down. They'll always wait for it to look at it. And now if you look at, the amount of stablecoin settlements that are being made, or, real stuff, real money is moving around at scale very, very, more efficiently than their legacy systems. And, they notice that, and they're always looking to improve and have efficiencies, but it needs to be compliant, and it needs to work, and it needs to be secure, and it needs to be user friendly. And I think a lot of those challenges have been solved or are on their way to being solved.
No, I think, I guess, trying to stick back or get back to us and the Defactor rewind and where we are, I thought it was interesting when we said, we launched our roadmap now in, was it March, the updated roadmap, right? And for there, as I said, split into 4 different sections. So the launch phase, all about building strong teams, making sure we're testing the technology, making sure that there is actually, product market fit there. And this year, grow phase is all about expanding horizontally, as I said, trying to test different asset classes, new partnerships. I think you said it, Alejandro, as well, probably most importantly, new jurisdictions, right? So at the start of the year, we did some engagement with Huawei at a dog patch in Dublin, shout out to Dog Patch. But that got us a whole new kind of layer of people from all over the world, never knew about Defactor, all of a sudden flooding in. And it was very exciting, somewhat scary even at times. You're like, look at the numbers growing, like it was insane. So I do think it's important to reflect as well, just from the start of the year to now. The community is growing. Thankfully, the Factor token is doing well. As you said, it's on new exchanges. Next year, we hope to get on even more exchanges again. So sometimes you're so close to the work because we're doing it every day. It's very hard. You have to try and step back and say, wow, actually from January to now, if you go onto the website, check the roadmap, you obviously have the toolkit, which we've been talking about, or we will talk about a lot today. So essentially a way for others to be able to come in and get involved in the RWA or real world asset tokenization space, reducing that time to market, reducing the friction levels. So that's very exciting. But the other part I think is important to highlight is the 4 pillars. And that's, again, it's on our website. You can see it broken down. But essentially we broke it into technology and innovation, community and marketing. There's liquidity in markets. And finally, there's governance. And I think it was important for us to do that because there are so many facets to this world. You can't, try and put it all in one box. So breaking it into those pillars and having a roadmap per pillar, I think was very important. So if anyone hasn't seen it, check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, and I mean the reason why we did that is obvious. You can sit in a bubble and build technology all day long, but unless you're out there promoting it, and marketing it, and showing people and showcasing it, nobody will ever touch and use it. Governance, obviously, we've got a token. We're interested in what our token holders want, not just now, but our future token holders and future partners. So that's kind of always running through it. And then, liquidity in markets, where can you get these tokens? How can you use them? Can you sell them if you need to? Can you buy them if you need to?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we broke it down. Give us a bit of structure, a little bit of organization, and just make people accountable for milestones as you kind of move through a roadmap and achieve things. Yeah.
I did think one thing that was, I guess, a nice addition this year was trying to break things down of course, you have your bigger goal or your North Star, what you're trying to do, but breaking things down into 30-day plans, 60-day, 90-day, what's everybody doing at that stage? I think that definitely helped with a lot more structure. So we'll continue on with that for sure. I guess one of the areas on the roadmap is we want to try to be around the place, going to different events, seeing what the sentiment or what the market is like. You've traveled around a lot this year, Alejandro. What's your take? What are you seeing when you're going out there into the world? The sentiment, I guess.
So sentiment on the tokenization of real world assets is pretty positive. I think everybody, as I mentioned before, is listening. Everybody wants to understand better. Everybody wants to see how they can apply this technology to whatever they are doing. They clearly see a lot of opportunities, especially like projects that are sitting on tons of illiquid assets. They're just seeing, okay, how I can use the technology to create some liquidity, how I can just use to actually understand how I can just manage my own working capital better. So there is a lot of people out there that are paying attention, and then suddenly, and this always happens when the big boys are starting to just put it out there that they are using the technology, that they are actually doing something right now in the space. So now people say, okay, maybe it's time now. Mm-hmm. And people are listening. And I think that's important. Like you compare that to when we started a project in 2021, let's say mid-year 2021, right? We're talking about this thing. Not many people will listen, right? Like it's a completely different environment. And that's great, right? That helps the narrative, that helps the ecosystem, that helps actually growing the RWA narrative, and that's interesting.
No, I'm saying, yeah, I saw quite similar. And I think, well, when it comes to events, I've kind of a mixed bag, right? When you go to some of the larger events, not to name any of them, when you go to some of the larger ones, you can be caught in just a sea of people, a sea of companies. It's very difficult. How are you meeting the right people? How do you get there? Some of the events have great apps that you can set up meetings with and stuff like that. But I found one of the things that worked quite well for us was trying to run side events adjacent to a larger event, right? So the brand we went to was Real World Assets Get Real. So we did one, I think, Dublin, we did one in Lisbon.
Dublin, Lisbon, Paris, London.
Dublin, Lisbon, Hong Kong too as well. Yeah. So the whole idea, what I like about that is, especially the one in Lisbon where we were there. So Ines, who's our ambassador over there, basically took the lead on a lot of the organization, invites for people to come in. So you really got a sense that it was somebody boots on the ground who understood the market there. We said, do it in this place. So this place is nice. And I think we should double down on that.
No doubt.
For a big time.
I mean, you kind of don't have a choice in this space because, normally with a business, you kind of try and prove it locally and then scale it globally. With these businesses, they're global from day one. Mm-hmm. You've got technology, you're running on large public ledgers or public networks. People can buy a token from anywhere and then they're interested in your project. So, you have to do your materials and translate them. You have to put people on the ground to, interface with them sooner rather than later. Otherwise, you'll only be, confined to that small market, and you just won't see the perspective of what's going on globally.
And look at side events, like you asked me, the quality of the side events that we have put together in a lot of the cases are way better than even
much better.
The top speakers in some of the big events. Like you see, for example, when we're in Paris, that we had the chance to bring the guys from Forge. We had the chance. So there was a panel that was Forge, MakerDAO, Tokeny, Goldfinch, and another big player in the tokenization space. Like that line up there is like oh wow.
Exactly. Yeah. So and it's topic specific, and everybody can have the amount of time to explain or go deep or really engage and have a discussion. These larger ones, you go and speaking on a panel and passing mics around for sound bites.
So I have to do it then. If I was to ask, and we have asked the community as well, but what regions would you be excited in doing more of these side events, right? So again, you mentioned some great ones, and I think we should again double down in those places because they're very key locations for Web3 for sure. But where else?
Yeah, I would like to add Latin America. I think Latin America is a place that, funny enough, there are two founders that are Latin Americans, but we haven't realistically put much effort into it. I think we need to go there. Like what's happening in Latin America from the DeFi perspective is just amazing.
Yeah.
Like the level of engagement, like the level of talent that is in Latin America is crazy. But also the adoption in Latin America.
Because it's needed, right? I mean, it's from the macroeconomic standpoint, and inflation is raging, and you know they've got currencies that are devaluing like crazy. They need it. They need it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, for sure. So Latin America, what would you say if you had to pick one?
I think you know, obviously Southeast Asia, with our base in Hong Kong, is fantastic. I'd love to kind of spread the wings a little bit further down. I know we've spoke many times about Africa being, you know, also a bed of opportunity that is ripe for, you know, DeFi services and those type of kind of enabling tech, you know, for people to pool some money and get some projects done. But it's a beast, right? So if we're going to do it, we're going to have to find the right players that, you know the local markets and support them to do it, rather than thinking that we can just arrive with a flag and say, here, we're Defactor, you know, listen to us. We've got to try and build this up from, you know, grassroots, and empower other people to understand what it is that we have and how they can build their own businesses on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes my eyebrows raise a little bit when I do hear people say Africa, because you're like, where, right? So because, you know, one corner is completely different.
55 countries.
And how many languages?
Like that.
I'm going to say, even just in Nigeria, there's hundreds of languages, or, you know, tens of languages. So that's why I say, and I think it's a great point, when doing this or when trying to break into these places, having local representation is just so important. It's those local incubators, startup studios, and ambassadors, right?
Which is what we're trying to do with the ambassadors. Yeah,
that's exactly. And that's what I kind of wanted to get onto. I'll give, from my answer, and just maybe because I had just come back from there, right? But I've just come back from Turkey. I think there's a big opportunity in Turkey. I think it's
Turkey in the Middle East. I mean,
big market. Obviously, at an economic level, there's some issues there with their fiscal policies, etc. Yeah, but again, need to know. I don't know the market. I don't speak Turkish, so we met some good teams over there, and hopefully we can do some stuff there.
But again, there's going to be teams on the ground there that are hungry for this, and we've now got a stack that they can, you know, start working with straight away. So if we can empower them to do that, and, you know, put some boots on the ground and maybe run some events, and, you know, try and find some key players that know the market and can start growth through incubators or other startup kind of ecosystems. I think that's how you penetrate these things, and you let them pull you rather than thinking that we're able to go and push.
No, for sure. And it does kind of just then bring me to the ambassadors, right, and the ambassador program, the importance of that. So I think at last count now we have, 5 ambassadors, and I think each of them are from a different region. Each one of them brings a different skill set. I mentioned Ines already, shout out to Ines. We've got Kelroy, Tommy, recently Jack has come on, Willen. There's a lot of people, and Anastasia from our team is working hard with them. But what we want to do is make sure that you're getting the best out of people's strengths, right? And it's not everybody is going to have the same, let's say, appetite for events than another person will for videos or for something else. I think that's both the challenge and the opportunity. It's trying to make sure we design the program in such a way that it can attract a diverse set of people, but at the same time,
and we have, you know, the resources, the tools, etc., for them to achieve their objectives. You know, this has to be a partnership.
No, for sure. So then I guess, going through. So, of course, the roadmap pillars. If anybody hasn't seen them, they check the website, and please give us feedback if they see something, or if you see something that you think needs to be updated or is not quite clear on there. I think that could be better. Like, because it's probably one thing. It's with these rewinds, I think it's always easy to just talk about the good, right? But the one thing that has been said to us from our community is up the communication, guys. Just be a little bit, you know, what's happening, because we have been a little bit head down on a lot of stuff, you know, building tech or even working with licensing partners, etc. It all takes time. But I think consistent updates, which we've started to do now, weekly updates, and hopefully with video content like this, it should help. So again, feedback is very important if people could do that. So from a Defactor Rewind point of view, I guess, well, by the time this comes out, it's also important to talk about. So from the toolkit, we have Engage, which was launched during the summer. That's everything from staking, governance. There will be bounties on there too. account verification. So we really wanted to be anywhere that you, or not only from a Defactor point of view, but other teams can also use Engage if they want to have staking, have governance, have these types of things. So that was important, I think, to start with that. Pools followed now. So we've just got the audit report back from Pools that will be on the website as well. Scored very well. But the tactic now has to be finding very interesting use cases, showcases that kind of it demonstrates what's possible. It's so much more powerful to show something than tell something, right? So,
and the more people's hands we get on these products, the more feedback we're instantly going to get, and we can iterate much quicker. You know, that's certainly our challenge now.
That's our challenge with pools, and then finally, then assets. So asset tokenization, representing something in the physical or even in the digital world, and tokenizing it with different standards. So obviously, there's different standards on Ethereum and EVM chains. But I think maybe could you talk a little bit on the ERC 3643 association? That's going to be important.
It was the Tokeny guys and developers that authored this standard. It's been embedded in their product for regulated tokenization of assets, and they've battle tested. I mean, we've even minted some tokens for alpha. Really solid standard, and they're looking for other players to join them in, promoting that as being the standard. And this is really important because, if you've got a regulated asset and you tokenize it once, you're not going to want to tokenize it again, right? I come from enterprise IT experience, and the reason why large multinationals can scale is one system can talk to another. You can move data from one to another without much hassle, and that's what standards does. So they have an open invite for companies to come and join them. We've joined that association. We're going to get involved on the technology side. In our own Defactor assets application, you'll be able to mint assets using that standard, and some others as well, depending on which is the right one for the use case that you're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, look, this space is so small that working with solid partners that are really trying to innovate helps everybody, rather than thinking, okay, we'll just come up with our new standard and everybody has their own standard and it's a mess. And then when you start talking to integrating with large bodies or companies or countries even, they look at it and go, look, this isn't quite ready, So yeah, excited where that goes. It's something we've signed up to in the last couple of weeks. Expecting some meetings in December, and then working with them over the next couple of years.
Excellent. And then I suppose that leads me. So 3643 is all around permissioned, regulated asset classes that are being tokenized, digital assets. And when doing that, there's obviously rules, regulations, certain ways to do things, particularly in Europe. So I think maybe touching a little bit on Alpha Bond, what was done from the Defactor Labs team, which also then led to a nice award, which we got to get dressed up and receive. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
A product like this didn't exist before, right? So we needed to create this, and the whole team needed to come together and say, okay, how are we going to just create a product that is using DeFi technology, but at the same time is going to be able to be regulated? And that's coming to your point, right? Like I said, Alpha was at that point the first institutional grade and fully regulated DeFi product in whole Europe, right? And the idea was setting up a structure that was pretty traditional, like a SV in Luxembourg, do a tokenization of a bond in there, and actually just running DeFi technology under. So in that case, you have full visibility.
Yes.
And that's so on one side, you tokenize all the assets from the traditional financiers that they want to actually just get liquidity from, and on the other side, you didn't tokenize the whole investment from traditional investors, right? So that was kind of you're mixing both, or like the best of both worlds, right, in one way, because you are using a structure that is pretty well known, that everybody knows how it works, that the investors are really well used to it.
It needs to be,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And on the other side, you have the full visibility, right, because investors know, okay, who is using these funds? When are they coming back? What are the rates and the risk associated and all these things, right? Yes. So that was fantastic to see that working. And then, as you mentioned, we got nominated in the FINCH Awards for the best crypto, blockchain, and Web3 practice of the year.
Yeah.
which we got it and was fantastic. I think it was more than the award, because the award is great. You just always have that recognition. It makes perfect sense, and for the team, right, it just gives a lot of boost. But more than that, I think was the recognition for the space, right? I think that's what it was more interesting, because for the fintech, especially fintech, like crypto and all the companies, they didn't exist, right? They were just in the corner. So just actually seeing it, to have just a whole award for the space, and not only that, because we got nominated as well for the best fintech of the year, right? Which is fantastic. So clearly you are seeing like that line between like Web3, DeFi, crypto, starting
acceptance, huh?
It's acceptance, full on acceptance, right? And that line is starting getting really blurry, right? Now it's fintech and the crypto space starting getting
just...
just...
It's going to be fintech.
I think it's just going to be fintech?
I think it's just...
I thought...
the next
Because
thing.
it's the technology, right?
Yeah.
And it's how you apply that technology.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
For me, and you see actually a lot of those fintechs right now that were there with us, like I have no friction. I have some of the guys that were in there. They actually right now, they have been accepted as VASP, right? Now they have regulations that has to be with virtual assets, right? Because they know that this technology is going to be just extremely important for them in the future.
Customers are going to demand it. You know?
But I thought this one was
Customers are gonna demand
particularly interesting. I haven't been to many award shows. Hopefully I get to go to more. But when I had heard about it, I was like, oh, this is great. And then I was talking to my partner, and I was kind of saying to her, like, if we win or not, I don't really mind. Then when I got there and they started to give out the events, I was like, I really want one of these. So we were sitting there, and I was like, I really want one. So eventually we got it. Yeah, we all looked great in the tuxedos.
You
I think
got
it was
best dressed as well, right?
I got best dressed. I got most handsome. Yeah. I got best dressed and most handsome.
The handsomeness.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So that was fun. That was fun. But you're right. It's the recognition side, and Ireland, which is so big on the fintech side. I think some of the top 10 fintech companies are based or have European operations in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
So to have that, and to get, some of the bigger banks were coming up to us, and some of the people that, we would know they're completely ingrained in the Irish technology landscape. They're saying, what's Defactor? How does this work? And that then led to some conversation. So that's good.
Look, it was hilarious, right? Because in Singapore, because we did like the guys from Enterprise Ireland, they invited us, right, to just be part of the delegation, and it was there were guys there like TransferMate. There is a huge payment provider around the whole world, right? I think they have licenses around in close to 100 countries so far, right? And the founder actually was there. I was chatting a chat with them and said, saw you in the awards that time.
There you go.
I said so I want to know more what you're talking about, what you are doing. Saying the guys from Fexco actually, that's like, oh, this is really interesting. I want to know more about it. Yeah. So I think it also allows, right, just to start getting these companies to get interested and say, okay, what can we do in the space? Yeah. What is there any way that we can collaborate? Is there any synergies in there? Mm-hmm. So I think having the chance to, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, they're all payments companies, and I was thinking, just kind of coming in here, what do you use blockchain for, right? And on a week-to-week basis, a month-to-month basis, the real benefit that I have using blockchain is paying people.
Correct.
Right? We're paying software developers or testers or whatever all over the world. It can be tens of thousands of dollars, can be even more sometimes, depending on what we're building. You try and do that through the banking system. Yeah. And it's an absolute
nightmare.
Yeah. Now.
Even still now, for sure. I mean, I heard a thing the other day in the US. I think that's still a huge amount of business is still done by check. Yeah. You write a check in the US, and you got to wait for that to clear. And I see that too.
It's crazy in that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's on that collaboration point, though. I think what's important, another thing this year, I think it's important to talk about. We did collaborate with the likes of the Two Tokens organization in the Netherlands and trying to do some co-authoring with different things. I think that also is super important. The space is still so small. And I think that's probably a nice way to end on it, right? So I do want the community or anybody else who maybe is new to Defactor, please check out the roadmap. We're very clear about the stages. So we move into now the scale phase, and it's about having different teams around the world working on this tech. very proud to say we're working with, the likes of Zyzen in Europe. We're working with Edenia in Costa Rica. We're working with a lot of teams, and we're covered across different time zones. And that's why I hope next year we're able to just iterate and continue with more of these use cases.
Yeah, I just add as well, if anybody's watching this and they're interested in what we're doing, get involved, right? I mean, drop us an email, go to the website, find us on Twitter, jump in a Telegram, have a chat. We're always interested in talking to people and trying to accelerate them or educate them or just help. So
it's great.
Boots in the ground. We need boots in the ground, so we need ambassadors anywhere.
Ambassadors, partners, users, holders, whatever.
Yeah.
we need more.
Let's do it. Okay, thanks very much. And hopefully we see you again in 3 months' time. Thanks, guys.
This podcast is for information purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. Please do your own research.